Um, Thank you, Sanjay, for that warm introduction for all of us. We're going to make this as interesting as it gets. Okay? So, with all these tech options multiplying by the day, literally, and I think we've got some very, very serious tech players in the house today, and they're doing some great work. But the challenge that remains is what really is worth spending or worth investing into, right? So before we go ahead, let's have a quick thing with all of you. Anybody who wants to answer can raise their hands, okay? What is the one piece of supply chain tech you cannot live without today? Anyone? Go ahead. Excel. Anyone else? One piece of tech that you cannot live without. Emails. Anyone else? ERP. Great. Power BI. Yeah. Telecom. Well, absolutely. Bang on. Also, another quick one. What is the one tech trend that you think is overhyped as of now? Come on. All right, so we've got a great start. What we are going to focus on is how to choose, right? So we're not saying tech stack is good, tech stack is bad. I think everything has its place. We're going to focus on how to choose and what's the journey like, okay? So we did a little bit of brainstorming between us to see, what the tech stack looks like. So everything from literally from Excel to ERP systems, software, SaaS services, mechanization, robotization, everything that has evolved in the last 10 years really comes on the tech stack map if you were to make one in your, on your walls. Now that's the expanse we are talking about. What we did to ease out some bit of understanding for us. How do we classify this? So we said, okay, there are transaction systems, right? Whether it is, an aggregation, vehicle placement, or an ERP. So there are transaction systems which allow you to create, track, trace, etc., transact, interact, etc., right? And Tannistha will later talk about the user interfaces around that. Okay. Then there is the analytics layers. So you have a lot of data that sits or gets recorded on the transaction systems. And then there is analytics that we literally really use, okay? And that makes the transaction system more useful. Then there are decision systems, right? This is what essentially all of us finally look for. And this is what delivers probably the maximum value for us, right? Whether it is the optimizers, aggregators, I'll go even to the level of saying digital twins, etc. So these are basically decision systems. The last piece, which we kept a little, out of this, was the action triggers, where there is a man-machine interaction, whether it is IoT, or the likes of it. So that's how we classify these. Now we come back to our core question, how to choose. Ideally, we would have started with a nice journey on how to choose, what are the parameters, how do you look at it. But I'll go to Shreyas, and we'll probably look at, I don't know if that's a great start, but what not to do, right? So Shreyas, when we start looking at some of the tech stack, what are the initial steps? And where do we often go wrong?
Thank you, Rajat. So, a quick introduction about me. I am Shreyas Dhore, part of John Deere supply chain team, been with John Deere for 14 years. And prior to that, worked with General Motors, Avaya, and started here in this city of Mumbai, working with Siemens. Okay, so all these years, more than 2 decades in supply chain. So, have seen the tech stack evolve over the years, but that's a good start for this discussion, Rajat. We all talked about different tools and foundational elements that keeps our supply chain running. Before getting into the tech, the way this panel discussion would evolve, I would like to first talk about why tech first. Rather, why not tech first? Many times, and I have also experienced this in my journey as a part of supply chain, that we ended up targeting a tech than the problem. Whereas my approach, and that what I recommend always is the problem first approach. Okay, which problem are we trying to solve? Okay, and based on various projects that I have worked with, have led, I have come to a framework which keeps me grounded when it comes to leveraging tech for solving a supply chain problem. I would slowly talk about it, okay, so that you can sink in with what I'm saying. We have heard about different marketing models, frameworks. This I take it as a supply chain tech framework, which I call as 4 A's of tech in supply chain. The first A, where it starts for me, is applicability. Whether it's a problem worth solving. The first question that I always ask, I challenge everyone to ask, is whether it's a problem worth solving. So, is it a problem where the tech can be applied, the applicability? If the answer is yes, then I move to the next A, which is affordability. What value are we trying to drive from the solution to solve this problem? Once we have the applicability and affordability, then I would go to the accessibility, because I've seen several instances where excellent solutions, proof of concepts, have failed because they were not accessible by the larger mass. The planners, the buyers, the warehouse operators, the inventory analysts who work day in, day out. Accessibility of a solution is also equally important for them. And once we have answer to applicability, affordability, and accessibility, what is important is availability of that solution. Okay, how we make the value realized so that the solution is self-sustainable. So this is where I would like to start, Rajat, that even before applying a tech, whether we are meeting these 4 A's, whether there is a problem that we would like to solve. So solving a pain point or focusing on a pain point is important. Let data guide which tech stack can be applicable to that problem. Okay.
Lovely. I think it's a beautiful way of approaching what really the problem is. A lot of time in life, we have a lot of challenges, and we skip the problem and we stick to the solution because we have a solution already in mind. Now, I think that probably creates a bias which may not lead to the right results, right? So start with the problem and not the solution. We'll go to Neha now. Neha, do you encounter these kind of dilemmas with your clients because you're in the consulting zone and, there would be legacy, there would be culture, and then there is a whole buzz around something like we did hear about some stuff here. How do you deal with this?
All right. Thanks, Rajat. And adding to what my fellow panelists are saying here, right? We absolutely see this with clients now more than ever with the AI buzz, whether it's to sort of, just follow the trends or even peer pressure, right? That competition is doing it, so I want to do it. But competition's problems are different from your problems, right? So always come back to the first principles as to what is the business problem that I'm trying to solve, right? And that's the journey that we guide our clients on. Not to say that AI mein kuch karna hai, but more from what is it that will give me the business outcome? What are the pain points of whether it's my team, my organization, my global peoples, am I trying to solve, right? So we bring it back to that. And once, we've aligned or diagnosed that, these are the problem statements, what do I do now, right? It's not just about picking up a technology and, plugging it in. These kind of digital transformations, especially supply chain, can be very, very disruptive as well as exhausting for the teams that are involved, right? And I think 4 or 5 basic checks as organizations we sort of either do it for them or ask them to do is, am I process ready? Are my processes mature for me to be able to adopt a technology in a certain field, right? Is my organization change ready? And you will not believe the number of times some of these fail because people are not ready to adopt or do things differently, right? This is a very, very critical check before you embark on any digital transformation journey, supply chain or otherwise, right? And the third is, and we speak about it often but don't pay enough attention to, is the data readiness. We've seen delays, we've seen programs shut down because organizations thought they can do demand sensing, but they don't have the right information, data, structures to be able to embark on that journey, right? So do some of these sense checks before, you even look at a piece of technology, because these are basic, the tool agnostic checks and balances, right?
Wow. I mean, I'm going to ignore the fact that you looked at me when you said people are not ready for change. But yeah, I think I really have a huge respect for consultants who come in and try and explain us what kind of maturity level as clients we are at. Because a lot of times as clients, you want to feel that you're a very high maturity level and you've decided that this is the product, this is how it's going to go. And I don't know if we are trying to consult the consultant, but I think we need to reflect back and probably go back and understand from both of them that, knowing the maturity of the organization, knowing the problem that you're dealing with and keeping it on the table, I think that helps as a great starting point. But is that enough? So we looked at, we start with the problem, and I'm going to go to Neha Singh now and say, do we need to look beyond the current problem and the applicable tech solution on the point? So there is an on-point applicability, or maybe as of now, I can right away use it. But is there more to think about before you put the bucks on the table?
So thanks, Rajat. So guys, starting from Shreyas and what Neha said, and based on my experience with Procter & Gamble, Unilever, and now Diageo, and I've worked in areas like operations, manufacturing, procurement, you name what, planning excellence. So one thing biggest thing I've learned so far, and maybe burning our hands sometime, is we many times, traditional mindset was that, where is the problem and what is the best tool applicable? And we used to jump that, okay, let's find what can solve our service inventory issue and this, and where is the fire? Let's douse the fire and find the best tool. But one thing which we have learned and which I think every company should change in the mindset is, don't start with finding the tool. Start first with the strategic evaluation of your digital architecture. And digital architecture cannot be made, just like that. And you don't need any consultant for that, honestly. Just some good people in your company. So before you call the consultant, first, understand your own house. A common word used these days is taxonomy. I don't know how many of you are familiar with that. Please, first of all, plot your taxonomy. What are your level 1 to level 5 or level 6 processes? Then next, you need to see that, okay, for each of these processes, where is the capability standing, where you want to be. Maybe in some processes, you want to be benchmark. In some processes, you just want to survive, and some you want to actually improve. Once your capability map is ready, map to your taxonomy, please then understand, okay, connected to these capabilities, do I need a digital intervention? Or some process fixes can, manage with that part. And then you go to that digital solution mapping that, okay, suppose my service is a problem in my planning process. Then service, I need some tool to fix my service balancing inventory. Then I find which is the best tool in the market. Is it ERA? Is it ON09? It is OMP? It is Kinaxis, or which one? And then you go into the process of RFP, RFQ, and all those things. But before you go, and here you may need consultant to liaison you with different kind of, tool makers and implementers. But before you reach that part, the whole taxonomy mapping to reaching this stage, you should do yourself, involving right people who understand the situation. So automatically when you do taxonomy, you'll come across that, okay, this process has issue. And this will give you a long-term map, You are not solving issue for now. You will know that, okay, if I implement O9 for now, whether it will work with my ERP solution and whether it will help in my ESG solutions or not, how all these tools will marry to each other. So first map all that, then you go in the market to do the tool hunting. So this is my recommendation to whoever is not doing it right now.
Super. Thank you so much, Neha. I think, the one thing I kind of am completely aligned to is douse the fire. Because when there is a fire, it is extremely difficult to get the people to hold on, say, wait, let me plot the taxonomy. But I think that is exactly what we need to do, right? So there is a larger picture to all of it. Unless that is clear, any amount of evaluation of tech stack is not going to yield the result. But with that, we have so many platforms, Tannistha, and I'm going to come to you. So many platforms, so many products within an organization across the supply chain. And they're all diverse, sophisticated, and most often not integrated. What do we do about it before investing in the tech stack? And is there a need to bring it all together or not?
Right. I'm looking at a change in the way the questions are coming. It's no longer tech chahiye ki nahi. It is more ki tech to chahiye. We absolutely need to have technology. How do we manage it? And how do we make it successful? So we've come a long way in terms of adopting technology. Now to the question that yes, today we have various levels of softwares, technologies that we are using, right? There could be the ERP systems which form the backbones of many of the large enterprises. There will be smaller level softwares which we use for specific functionalities. And then there is the in-house team which makes very, very specific functionalities for you, right? Very, very core to your business. Before we go into, and all of these points are very valid, all three of you that said that, you look at what you need and then go to technology. One step because I belong to the IT team and I am looking at all of this from various areas, I always say, from an IT perspective, take one more step back. And people who are in the IT for your companies, take a step back and design your integration.
Wow. Before
you start taking various or working with your businesses to implement various softwares, right? So that architecture of integration, let me call it, whatever you call it, doesn't matter, right? You have a tech stack of that as well. You design that. You design the tech stack of integration because that integration layer, you call it layer or you call it your backbone, it becomes the backbone of your entire technology landscape of your company. So you decide what technologies you will implement that will help you talk to your ERP systems. It will help you get the data that you need from that small software vendor or a startup that you worked with who's giving you a very specific functionality, like a drone counting. You decide what would be the integration methodology you will use for your in-house team, the analytics, the Power BI they have built for you, right? So you decide and build the tech stack for integration itself, right? You can have MuleSoft, you can have CPI, you can have Node.js, you have a number of options, technology options available. But build that as an IT perspective, right? So that when your business comes to you, telling you, guys, I need this because, this particular software is going to do X, Y, Z and it's going to save me X number of hours or it's going to give me X number of savings in 1 crore, 3 crore, jo bhi hai. You are able to integrate with it. 3PLs. How do you integrate with your 3PLs if you don't have a strong backbone, right? In warehouses, how many percentage is 3PL, how many warehouses you have on your own. Major, I mean, depends from various industries or companies, but you work with many 3PLs. How do you integrate the data from them? If you don't, are you going to build point-to-point integrations with each one of them? Now, imagine you have 300 3PLs across India. Are you going to have 300 connections? Do you think you can manage that? And if you want to manage that, imagine the investment you have to make for your IT team and the technology. So before you go into more complications, build your own integration stack. Similar is data governance. I'm not going to that because it's going to complicate up more. But because you talked about integration, I'm focusing on integration layer very particularly.
Thank you so much, Tannistha. I think this is, I've also been on the wrong side of, this kind of a discussion, and my CTO would have killed me for saying this today. But I think we do realize that tech stack evaluation should not become a tech window shopping. And I think a lot of us, have been there and, on the erring side of the line. In search for speed, and just let's quickly get this and plug and play. I hate that word now, but plug and play used to be the buzzword for the last 3-4 years. And we've realized all these plugs and plays create a whole crazy, challenge for the whole ecosystem. And in fact, whatever returns we actually accounted for on the plugs and plays, the moment you unplug them, actually disappear. So that's been my experience around the last few years. And since we're talking about returns, let's look at this. So there is a larger picture. You keep a track of what the problem is. You find out, you set up the architecture, you design the integration, and then all of it, eventually you're going to get the investment approved. Now, how does that happen? How do we look at the ROI, which also will form the basis of selection? And please feel free to enter into this question. How is this being addressed? What are you guys measuring other than the basic hygiene? Once that is in place, how are you deciding on the ROI? Feel free.
I can start, you can add. So when it comes to tool implementation, as you said, plug and play was the buzzword. Yes, it was. And somewhere in the mind of everybody that the moment you start using the tool, you start seeing the result. So I think one of the biggest learning is please create a ramp-up period kind of thing, And in that ramp-up period, your hypercare should be established very strong, especially the feedback loop. So when it comes to return on investment, yes, there should be a time limit given when you want to see those benefits or capability building and results in the KPI. But at the same time, one biggest thing which I always see being missed out in the tool implementation is the adoption percentages linked to the KPI you're touching. For example, I'll give an example is, I won't name the tool, the planning tool, but how it measures adoption is that how many times people logged into the tool. That's not adoption. The idea is that people are moving from manual purchase orders to system-created purchase order. That is a success, correct? That if they were doing 80-90% manually, now they are using 100% or 80-90% created by the system. So those kind of measures should not be left to be checked manually outside. Usually what we do is that to just save a little bit of money, we don't inbuild those kind of measures in the tool, the adoption percentages. And adoption percentages, again, I'm insisting not just logging how many planners logged into the tool. Ensure that what KPI you wanted to be transformed, that KPI change is getting measured in that tool itself versus some of your admins are calculating it outside. The data analytics guys are calculating it outside. So that is very critical in the ROI because rest of the stuff, I assume the rest of the thing for which we paid the tool, people will be chasing it after anyway.
Yeah. So, as you mentioned, there are standard return on investment expectations which will always be there. Okay, whether it's digital transformation, digitalization, Six Sigma, because many of us have some point in our career were also exposed to Six Sigma in big way. Okay, there would be very few who would say no here in this room. Okay, supply chain, manufacturing, operations professional. So it was all based on how much dollar we saved, what efficiency in terms of man hour. That's how we would fill the Six Sigma charter. And now probably that progress to filling up the digitalization charter. Okay, but beyond that, in terms of ROI, what we also look at is supply chain processes are subjected to a lot of statutory compliances. Go into any organization, the compliance team will always look at supply chain from a different lens, okay? Because they think that we work with a lot of external stakeholders, we own the money of entire organization and we can do whatever we want to do with that. That's not the case. Okay, in my experience over these many years working with different industry verticals and companies, I have seen supply chain people in all likelihood are more vigilant about how we maintain those compliances. So as one of the ROI measure, even if there is a problem that we are solving which is not going to return dollar on the investment, which is not going to return efficiency on the investment, but if it is helping us maintain the compliance, if it is helping us mitigate any risk, that is also an ROI for us. Okay. Beyond that, in current scenario, what we also measure as ROI is, are we enabling the digital citizens within supply chain? Neha talked about the user metric, okay? Logins, number of hours spent on that application. We are tracking that. In addition to that, we are also seeing, is it enabling us to build more digital citizens? Because we all have been reading, listening, talking about a potential that AI has, whether we want to accept it or not, about displacing a lot of jobs, a lot of roles. So it is also important when we invest into tech stack. Another value that it has to deliver is enabling a digital citizens. The upskilling, the skill match has to happen along with the tech stack adoption. So beyond the conventional dollar and man-hour saving, this is what we also look at, which is mitigating risk, meeting compliances, as well as developing the digital citizens of tomorrow's supply chain. Yeah.
Wow, that's a lovely perspective, Shreyas. Tannistha, you want to add to it?
I want to add one small point here. See, ROI, of course, we will look at in terms of money, in terms of dollars or INR. But, if I look at it a little bit intangible way, after every software implementation, okay, I have never seen a single in my entire career where the end users have not come back saying, I need enhancements.
Wow.
Okay. So I don't know your experience, but end users have always come back and said, we need enhancements. Now, the attitude sometimes is, IT has not given us a good product, so we have to go back and spend more, and you need enhancements, phase 2, phase 3. But what point they are forgetting is, your end users are using the system, learning it, and understanding it better and want to use more of its features. That's also another way of looking at it, right? So, yes, the more enhancements come, is the cost, but your end users are using, and this is an example that from my this current implementation that we are doing in Brazil. We had 2 sites, 2 warehouses where we are going in with one WMS. The first site went live. 3 months down the line, the second site has given us a long list of learnings from the first site, which they now want in the second site. And even though we want to say, scope creep means you pay more, and that conversation is going on, but when I look at the requirements coming from them, it is really the learnings. They have understood, okay, the system was doing this, it is capable of doing 3 things more. It can have different inbound processes for different raw materials. I want them. So it's an enhancement, it's more work for us, more cost, but it's also the utility of, the end users are using the system. They are benefiting and learning. So that's also something, suddenly it came to my mind when ROI, so I thought I'll mention this.
Okay.
Right. So lot around adoption, lot around, post go live. I'll take us back to before, right? And before we decide to embark on a digital transformation journey, and this is what we do at Accenture very well, is we define what are the KPIs that I'm going to impact with this technology, right? I'm going to improve my service level. I'm going to balance my inventory. These are the measurable financial metrics that I'm going to get out of it, right? And that becomes the anchor for your implementation in a way that addresses most of this, right? That if you are going down a path where you say that, this is my exception 5% scenario, I want to model it in a tool, you go back to that anchor and you say that, is this going to tangibly impact my metrics? And, it becomes sort of a guiding principle throughout your technology implementation and even after adoption. The point Neha made, right, that a user can just log into the system and not do anything else, right? And they just continue to use Excel, which is everybody's favorite tool. We like to go back to that. But to understand and say that my tangible, measurable outcome is that my supply plan accuracy is supposed to be at 85%, is what I had decided at the beginning is the output I need. I'm at 80%. One, why am I at 80%? Two, why is the user, because of that 5%, is my user going back to his Excel? Right? So those kind of parameters become the anchor of your entire journey. And we've seen it, help clients a lot in terms of making these implementations sustainable. Because ultimately, ROI is, if I'm implementing this today, it takes me a year to 18 months to implement a certain technology. If my users stop using it in 6 months, it's a waste of money, regardless of, how much ROI you want to talk about. They're just going to continue to do things in Excel. So sustainability of a technology implementation is very, very critical. And for that, make KPIs or business problems your anchor. That would be my, advice.
Very interesting. I think a couple of quick notes, even when we're not ending this panel, but a couple of quick notes from this ROI bit. I think keep the ask clear. This is what defines success. And I've heard some very, very simple fundamentals. Like I used to have a CFO who used to say, "Kitna bachaya, kitna kamaya. Utna bata de, ho gaya ROI. I understand the rest of it." There was another guy on the supply chain side, somebody very senior that I learned from, and he would keep it even very, very basic. He would say, did you make things simpler and faster? If you've done that, somebody will help you calculate the ROI, but you're there, right? So anything that makes any erstwhile process simpler and or faster, I think you're there. That's a successful implementation or a successful choice of tech stack. But I think I love what Tannistha said, and I'm one of those who goes back after every implementation with a long list of another 15 things that they want because we love what's changing. And then, so recently I asked somebody, I missed an appointment. Why did Copilot not call me up? It's not connected to the operator. I said, go ahead and do it. But that's how expectations are taking shape. And I think what's important is to keep a track of what is moving positively. What are the needles that you see moving positively and you say, okay, we're in the right direction. Yeah? Okay. So we are talking tech stacks and we had some overhyped ideas around the house. The Kalki avatar of the tech stack. Let's talk about AI ML. So let's start with you, Shreyas. What's your view on adoption and utility on how this is starting to take shape? We know not a lot of us have put it on the ground the way we thought we would, but how's it starting to take shape, and what do you think are some of the key things to keep in mind?
Sure. So even before getting into AI and ML, the buzzwords, while we came on
There's a lot of
stage
people waiting for you on
and
the AI.
started having this discussion, I started reflecting back on how tech stack has played a role in my 20 years journey. Okay, I don't know how many of you here in the room have ever put up a purchase order in a envelope and sent it by courier. Is there anyone? I have done that. Okay, that was part of my internship at Siemens, 2004. When I joined back as a full-time employee, late 2005, the progression of tech stack was, rather than sending it by courier, I would fax it. Okay. And then gradually we moved to emailing. So, sir, you mentioned email as one of the important tool, which continues to remain. From courier to fax to email to a time now we think that EDIs are birthright. Okay. And unfortunately, we don't see this evolution as a tech stack evolution in supply chain. But when I was sitting here and reflecting, looking at this courier to fax to email to EDI, which is a very, very strong backbone of how entire supply chain industry works today, logistics, warehouse, procurement, we tend to miss and see it as one of the key tech stack enabler. Okay, because that runs in background, but somebody someday enabled it for us. Okay, and that's the journey that is going to be seen on data analytics. Okay, we all can, with very high confidence, claim in whichever organization we are that we are data analytics professional. Okay, right from the day one we were placed in supply chain. Okay, we have been doing it in spreadsheets. When I talk to my colleagues in engineering, operations, production, shop floor, okay, many times they struggle with a simple arithmetic formula, and we are the masters of V lookups, H lookups for ages. Okay, so statistics, in a way, is an inherent skill that all of us have acquired over the years being in supply chains. And now that's why we are able to solve the supply chain problems leveraging machine learning to start with, and now complementing that with AI. Okay, I'll talk about one example where I have seen same problem being offered in two different times. Initially it felt terribly, and later when it was reattempted, it was a big hit. Okay, safety stock optimization. Again, a very, very common problem that we all want to solve. In 2013, the technology center team came to me saying that we want to solve this, we want to apply analytics. Again, that time the narrative was we want to apply a technology, and it was not about solving a problem. So they did a proof of concept. We worked together. They built a fancy tool. Okay. And they said, here's the tool which will help you optimize the safety stock. And when I took it to my buyer at factory, he was like, where do I get started? I said, there's a spreadsheet which has got the script at the back. You run it. He said, I'm not able to run the script. I said, why? Because it asks for SAP HANA access, which I don't have. When I went back to the analytics team, they said, yeah, that is how the tool is designed and developed. So the accessibility out of the 4 A's that I mentioned, applicability was there, value was there, so affordability was there, but accessibility was missing. And that's where we had to kill that solution at the POC stage itself. Come 2023, we again said that problem continues to exist. We would either have shortages or excess stock, leading to a lot of value drain in terms of premium freights, production loss, the buyers working 12 hours, 14 hours just to get material in any ways. So we reattempted that, and this time there was a machine learning, even the advanced version of analytics which was applied, the machine learning model at the back end with crunching multiple parameters together. However, the problem that was solved, which will help us with the user adopting this tool, was the front end that was offered to the end user, which was Tableau Cloud, because there was no license required, there was no data connection required for an end user. And we saw that the accessibility was there as well as availability was there, because of which we could deploy that beyond the India factories, and that same solution went to more than 12 factories across the enterprise. Okay. So this is how I see the evolution of the technology and tech stack happening, and same we would see in adoption of ML and AI. But solving problem at the core is still important.
Anyone else, guys? Adoption of AI, ML, what are the real challenges on the ground, the early challenges, and how are we looking at it? How are we trying to build it?
So, all right. So, in supply chain, right, ML has been around for some time, right? Demand forecasting was one of the earliest use cases of machine learning, and we've perfected it over the years, right? In AI, in general, agentic AI, where, there are there's this whole architecture of 5 mini agents solving for a different problem and one sort of a master agent, anchoring all of it, right? It's evolving very, very quickly. A lot of the clients that we work with these days who are already on baseline technology, who are already using certain tools and have a framework in place, are asking for some of these technologies to do something as basic as root cause, right? That, for example, why is my forecast accuracy low on a particular business unit, right? Drill down for me. And that becomes sort of the basic use case, to a point where clients are now asking within a particular space, within a supply planning or within my certain execution arena, how do I make my planning touchless, autonomous, right? I don't think we're there yet, but there is this sort of push, both from the industry perspective as well as obviously, likes of Accenture, where we're starting to think about how do we work in tandem with these agents, how do we improve efficiencies, and how do we design some of these agents which are very targeted to my specific business, my specific problem statement, right? And then how do I make it all come together? That there's 5 problem statements in my supply chain. How do I make a master agent who can, activate these 5 as and when I need it? So this is a very, very real shift, and I think it's evolving at a very, very fast pace. And I think supply chain is a very exciting space for, some of these proof of concepts as well.
I think this is extremely interesting, and for the knowledge of everybody, this is not rehearsed, but I was having a very, very similar conversation in my organization a couple of days back, and we were saying, why don't we have a supply chain AI agent that can really ask the basic 10 questions that we ever ask anybody? Like anybody who comes to us, why can't we do this? Okay, just tell me first this, then I'll get to you with an answer. So, and this is a discussion that we were really having a couple of days back. So yeah, I think from what you're saying, there are certain base processes that we've developed on, and then we would like intelligence to help us get simpler and faster decisions, right?
But
Yeah, go ahead.
Please, I'll just take very few. See, when you said about challenges from the process or business side, why we can't, implement an AI tool. If you see the market of AI tools right now, they are very process specific, planning related to AI, demand planning tool or this and that. But something which surprises me is AI, whoever has studied AI in detail, Python and all those programs, is pure statistics running on a very massive scale. And it eats data, it survives on data. And I don't know which company can, raise a hand, even P&G and Unilever can't do that. Like, that we have the bestest data, cleanest data possible. So that is the first challenge I see, that if you get a tool anywhere to run it, do we have that data? And I don't see much development happening on the AI in the data cleaning part. Majority time AI tool is there, POC has to be done, so somebody is manually cleaning the data in behind the scenes. That is the first challenge I see. And secondly is when you get an AI tool, when you do the POC, the initial logic needs somebody in your excellence side of team, process side to work with those programs, you know. You have to tweak those logics, fine tune those logics. So if you're planning to adopt an AI tool, please ensure you have some good people who understands the algorithm, you know, like the process can be broken into algorithm form and then can modify and work with that AI company to develop those logics. Because AI solutions are not ready-made. You cannot just copy-paste them as you buy them from the market. So a presence of a very good cable team who can work on the logic part and a clean data. Those two things, I think, the building, you know, foundation to get an AI tool, which is two challenges I see.
I think, you know, creating an AI platform for some of the most sophisticated problems, like, you know, let's say you're going to forecast across 4,000 SKUs, 20 brands, 50 geographies, you can still simulate that kind of an environment on the AI platforms. But what is more difficult is to get AI to clean that data. I think that's a business idea for a lot of investors and developers. You know, data cleaning probably is going to be literally the next, you know, level of transformation for all of us. You know, and it has to be intelligent. That is the most intelligent job that we put our people onto before we launch anything which is even, you know, basic level of intelligence. Great. I have a slightly different question to all of you now. We've heard about digitization and we've heard about automation. What in your view has happened over the past years? Have they gone hand in hand? Have they gone, you know, in isolation? Could we delve into digitization and automation together? Or does it go in isolation? Anyone?
For me, automation is a, you know, subset of digitization. Digitization is the overall umbrella. Under that, you can do AI, you can do automation, you can do RPI and all those kind of stuff. So I don't think they are. Right. Do you feel they are different?
So I'm going to modify the question, okay, for ease of everyone. Let's talk about automation that duplicates human movement. Okay, any of that and digitization, do they go parallelly? Can they go parallelly, in fact, is the question. And how do you kind of approach that challenge?
So, I think they are already going parallel, you know, if you ask me. And I'm giving this example from what we do in our warehouses, right? We have ASRS systems, which are automation. They are running, feeding data into our ERPs, into our WMS, into our, you know, other smaller software. Then we have the AMRs and those AGVs, right? Running all around our warehouses and all that. They are also automations, and they are all having bi-directional data. They're all talking to our main systems and all. So digitization and automation, I don't think we can look in isolation. It's the level of maturity of a company that, you know, to what level of digitization you have reached and what level of, automation you have reached. Again, it goes around back to our first discussion. What is your need? Do you really need AMRs and AVG, you know, all those guided vehicles running around? Or do you really need, you know, a simpler solution? And ASRS will work for you. Do you really need very, again on AI ML, you really need very high level of analytics for your business, or simple ones is good enough? It all depends on what you need and what maturity you are able to reach. I'm bringing it back to your ROI question. What are you getting out of it? So I'm touching all those questions together. So your investment and your requirement will tell you how much of automation you want to put in and digitization you want to put in. So very difficult to say these are in isolation. They are in together.
I think in my own experience, and I can come back to you, Shreyas, in a while. In my own experience, unless you map the real physical process into a digital, map, it's extremely difficult to create any kind of automation. You know, otherwise you're going back to the days of manually driven mechanization. Right? One man can do the work of 10 men, but it is still man driven. So in my own experience, all processes across all physical work, whether it is a warehouse, whether it's a store, whether it is a production unit, I mean, go back to the CNCs or come back to your molding machines or whichever. I think unless you map it digitally, you cannot automate to the level that you want to see right now. So it is a prerequisite today to go ahead with digitization before you need the next level of robotization maybe. Maybe that's the right word.
So Rajat, exactly, that's the point. While agreeing with what Tannistha said, I believe that there is always going to be some lag between the digitization and automation, because for automation to work seamlessly, the information has to get digitized. Okay, the example that you mentioned, ma'am, about ASRS, AMRs, AGVs, when we see them in action, we feel that it's working in parallel. However, inherently there's a lag which is built even in those systems. Unless the information is digitized, it cannot be automated. The lag expands, the delay expands when it comes to the supply chain process automation. Okay, on the shop floor, we may not see that lag in action, but definitely for a process to get automated, like earlier robotic process automation and now just the process automation or the agents to work, the information has to first get digitized, and then only the automation layer can be put on top of that digitized data. Yeah. So I agree with what you said.
Lovely. We've got 9 minutes left, and we are going to come back to everybody who's sleeping or not. And, your queries are now welcome. So I'm going to quickly summarize what we spoke till now. We said, look at the problem. Do not start looking at the solution. Don't go window shopping. Understand your environment. I think we had less time. Otherwise, we would have also spoken about the people side of it, because mindsets and people, plays a huge role in managing the whole change. But I think we'll park it and we'll probably go to you for a couple of quick questions. Yes. If there are no questions, you will have to be, sorry. Yes, please. Can we pass on the mic?
Hi, this is Nicolia from Godrej. My question is mainly related to the Indian infrastructure on the utilization of tech in India. So when we say logistics in India, it almost 60 to 70% is unorganized, where tech even doesn't come in a picture. But the Fortune 500 and the big MNCs talk about the tech integration with this partner. How you see that this plethora of the vendors coming to this tech platform and supporting us in the coming years?
So I'll add to his question. The question is to the panelists. I'm only the moderator. But I'm going to add to his question. In India today, if you send a couple of your vehicles and drivers to some of these large MNCs, and please excuse me, but even the marketplaces, they don't have toilets. And we're talking about digitization and automation. The dice is yours, guys.
Yeah, I will partially agree, yes, that yes, the market is very scattered, especially from the supplier side. But at the same time, I don't know how close are you to the truck and because my brother has a transportation company. So I'm mostly observing how things are moving in that. So now he has trucks, and on his phone, he can quickly see where is my truck, how much fuel is utilized, how many hours it has loaded, how many weight is right now in the truck. So with that, the things are getting tied down. Like the things are getting, जैसे chain एक बना रहे हैं कि इधर से the companies expect those detailing from you. At the same time, the truck manufacturers are embracing all those technological advancements. So somewhere sooner or later, yes, if you see, the technology is very slowly, tacitly moving into the day-to-day workings of these people also. So even if the driver is illiterate, he's still, he's slowly getting the, like for example, your QR code thing, UPI. Sooner or later, everybody got into it. So yes, I don't think it will take a lot of time for this thing to come into, technological stage. At the same time, if you see, द कंपनीज आर बिग, यस, फॉर्च्यून 500, बट ट्रक वाले और वो सब तो वही लोग हैं ना, वही छोटी कंपनीज को भी देते हैं, वही बड़ी कंपनीज को भी देते हैं. सो जो यहाँ से सीखेंगे वो छोटी कंपनीज को भी बेनिफिट करेगा ही. सो आई थिंक इट्स एनवायरमेंट क्रिएशन विच इज़ हैपनिंग.
I'll just add one point, and this is how I see things happening today. There are multiple small software vendors who are coming up with easily available softwares that will help the smaller players to get digitized. There are multiple. They may not be as expensive that a smaller player will not be able to afford. You have the SaaS models and different models are there. I've interacted with several such startups who are bringing in those kind of solutions. Yes, it is going to take time for very unorganized sectors, players to jump in. But taking UPI example, I don't want to underestimate them either. Because if you have UPI Bheem installed, you can always install another app that will track and tell them and see कि इसका ट्रक कहाँ तक गया है. और there are startups, you can look into those startups, connect with them and see how you can utilize them for your 3PLs. I have met in few sessions, seminars like this where people have actually, the MNC companies, the managers themselves have gone and worked with such software providers for their 3PLs. So that push can also happen.
Yeah, so also I think there has been a huge amount of infra and digital infra transformation across the country. Staying aware of, the current challenges for a country as diverse as ours. But also, I think the expectations have moved faster than the infra has developed, right? Which is a very positive thing because then you have so much more to explore. Okay, the next one. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Ranganath. I'm from this company called Moderator. We are a logistics technology company. Coming back to Rajat's first question, he basically posed the question, what is the tool that you can't do without, and people said Excel and email and all of that. Now that we have understood the process, the stack, and the integrations and everything, what are you guys betting on? What are the tools that you are must have for you from this panel?
I can just tell for myself and my team. I think there is no option to avoid AI right now for us. And the recent conference I attended with ERA, they are moving from agents to multiple agents talking now. And one very good message they said is that whole process chain will dissolve. Like traditional supply chain, we learn, make, that source, make, plan, deliver, and all those things, that will dissolve. Those agents of AI will talk among each other, and within a second, they will take a decision. So I think if you see where we are preparing for is, how to prepare our capabilities to match that level now. Match that level to use those kind of AI tools. And at the same time, be ahead in the market to understand which tool we need to adopt. The architecture part I was telling in the beginning. So agentic AI, but on the next level, what they're trying to do is you're not replacing one process agents. You're replacing the whole team as a group of agents.
Yeah, just to add to that, Neha, you already mentioned about taxonomy. So it is not going to be one tool in isolation which we will bet on. It has to be an integration of tools. Okay, on shop floor, in public infrastructure, we have talked a lot about Internet of Things. But for lack of right acronym, I would call it Internet of Tools. Okay, but it is going to be multiple tools working behind the scenes, and these agents bringing that integration to the front-end users. Though we didn't touch upon control tower, but most of the control tower are doing these things today. Okay.
Exactly.
If I have to talk about the control tower that I use every day when I reach office and log into it, it has got at least 100 plus application in the backend from which it brings insights to me, which I access through almost 10 widgets. Earlier, I would have to go to those 100 plus applications. Okay. Some of them are meant only for my supplier. Some of them are meant only for my supply-based manager, supply development engineer, procurement buyer. But now Control Tower as a layer, front-end layer, does that integration for me. And on top of that, when the AI would be put in on top of that, then even I may not need to log into Control Tower. I would just log into my Teams and there would be a Teams bot that would help me take care of everything. So no one tool, it's an integration of tools.
I think I'll add some more masala here. The way I see it, every process is going to have a tool. There are tools that can address more than one processes, or there are platforms that can integrate all these processes, or there are agentic AIs that can bring the information. So AI is just automating the thinking part of it, but every process, the doing part, the thinking part, I think everyone is going to have a tool, and that's the way it's going to progress, right? The only differentiation is what organization has what kind of environment, what kind of customers, how are they interacting, and based on that, there's going to be a change of choices of tools that we do or that we kind of operate with. Good. We're 1 minute over time, but we can, maybe if Charu allows, we can take another question or two. Okay. We're done, sir. Thank you so much, guys.